The desert wind blew across the high plains like a whispering spirit, carrying with it the scent of dust, mesquite, and the far-off storms gathering in the south. Darkness was falling, and the last streaks of sunlight clung stubbornly to the tops of the red rocks, painting the horizon in hues of copper and blood. Luke McAllister rode hard through the gathering dusk, exhausted, wounded, and unsure if the horse beneath him had the strength to carry him another mile. His shirt was torn, blood seeped through the cloth at his ribs, and he fought the growing dizziness clouding his vision. Behind him, miles back, the remnants of the men hunting him still tracked his trail, men paid by a corrupt rancher, determined to silence him after witnessing something he never should have seen. He didn't know where he was going or how far he had wandered off the main trail, only that he needed shelter just for one night, and then he could figure out how to clear his name. The land around him began to change. The land flattened, the rocks grew higher and more jagged, and the air carried in unfamiliar stillness. Even through the haze of pain, he felt he had crossed into a place few outsiders ventured. And then, as the last of his strength threatened to leave him, he saw a faint orange light flickering between the rocks. A campfire. He didn't know whose. He didn't care. When he dismounted, his legs nearly gave out beneath him. He staggered toward the fire, one hand pressed to his bleeding side, his breath coming in sharp gasps. She had a bow drawn, arrow notched, and her eyes dark, sharp, and unreadable, did not flinch even when she saw the state he was in. Her long black hair, braided with bits of turquoise and red thread, caught the firelight as she stepped forward. "Stop," she commanded, her voice calm but firm. "You are on Apache land." Luke raised his hands slightly, showing he carried no weapon drawn. "I just need a place to stay. For one night," he managed, his voice rough and strained. The woman studied him, expression unreadable. She took in the wound, the trembling legs, the exhaustion practically radiating from him. But she did not lower her weapon. "Not yet. Who hurt you?" she asked. Luke shook his head. "That's a long story, and one I do not need to know," she replied carefully. "But a man brings trouble with him. When he bleeds across the land," he nearly collapsed, catching himself just in time. The woman's eyes narrowed. She wasn't cruel. Luke could sense that, but she had the look of someone who had learned to protect herself, her people, and her land at any cost. Finally, she lowered the bow, only slightly. "Sit," she ordered. She approached him slowly, keeping a cautious distance. "What do I call you?" she asked. "Luke," he murmured. "Luke McAllister." She nodded once. "I am Tala." She knelt beside him, inspecting the wound. Her hands were gentle but sure, and she exuded a quiet confidence that eased some of the fear gnawing at the edges of his mind. "You're lucky you found me," she said. "How did you? Your tracks are sloppy," she said simply. "You are weak. Desperate men leave desperate signs." She stood and moved to gather supplies, herbs, water, strips of cloth. Her movements were efficient, graceful. "Why help me?" he asked. Tala did not look at him as she answered. "Because you asked, and because no wounded man should die alone in the dark." When she cleaned the wound, the pain was blinding. Luke clenched his teeth, gripping the earth beneath him. She worked quickly, mixing herbs, applying salve, binding the torn flesh with steady hands. "You will live," she said when she finished. "If you rest." He leaned back, finally breathing easier. "Thank you." Tala didn't respond, simply returned to sitting across from him, the fire casting warm shadows across her stoic face. She remained alert, listening to the night, watching the horizon. "Are you alone out here?" he asked. Tala's gaze flicked toward him. "You asked too many questions. Sorry." For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind whispered through the rocks, carrying faint coyote calls. The fire crackled softly. Luke drifted in and out of consciousness, fighting sleep. Tala watched him for a moment, truly watched him. Something softened briefly in her expression. "Sleep," she said quietly. "You are safe here for tonight." Those were the last words he heard before darkness took him. Luke awoke to sunlight warming his face, and the distant sound of someone grinding herbs. He sat up with a groan, taking in the small camp around him, Tala's bow leaning against a rock, a pot simmering over the fire, and the woman herself kneeling beside a flat stone, working with purposeful movements. She didn't look up as she said, "You're awake." Luke nodded. "Looks like it. Good. I thought perhaps you died in the night and I would have to bury you." He blinked, unsure if she was joking. She didn't smile. "Your wound needs another day before you travel," she added. "One night," Luke reminded her, sitting straighter. "I only needed one night. You need more," she said simply. When he tried to stand, pain stabbed through him, and he sank back down, cursing under his breath. Tala didn't move to help him. "Stubborn," she murmured. "You'll tear the wound open again." Luke looked at her, frustration and gratitude mixing uneasily. "Your hospitality is unexpected. You bled on my land," she said. "It would dishonor me to let you die on it." His eyes softened. "Still, thank you." Tala finally met his gaze. "You may stay until you can walk without falling. And after that, you go." The words hit him harder than he expected. He didn't know why. Maybe because her presence calm, strong, grounded felt like the first bit of safety he'd found in weeks. "You live out here alone?" Luke asked gently. Tala's movements slowed. "I live where I choose." He waited, sensing there was more. She resumed grinding. "My people moved north," she said quietly. "I stayed behind." "Why?" Her jaw tightened. "Because some wounds do not heal in the noise of others." Luke nodded slowly, understanding more than she realized. "I know that feeling," he said. Tala's gaze flicked to him again, this time with something like curiosity. "What happened to you?" Luke exhaled slowly. "I tried to do the right thing," he said. "Tried to stop a man from stealing land, water, cattle, things that didn't belong to him. And he sent men after you?" "He owns half the territory," Luke said. "Men do what he says. And what I saw him do, well, no one wants to believe it." Tala studied him carefully, reading not just his words, but the spaces between them. "Truth has a way of surviving," she said, "even when men try to bury it." He smiled faintly. "You speak like a wise woman." Hearty, warm, and he accepted it gratefully. As he ate, Tala remained alert, always scanning the land, listening to the wind as if it carried messages. When Luke finished, he said, "You saved my life, for now." She stood, brushing off her hands. "But if the men searching for you reach this place, you bring danger to both of us." Luke nodded slowly. "You're right. And when I'm strong enough, I'll ride out." "The world is dangerous everywhere," she said softly. Luke watched her as she moved through the camp, graceful and powerful, a woman shaped by the land she lived on. When she returned to check his bandages, her fingers brushed his skin lightly, and for a moment, both of them froze. Tala withdrew her hand quickly. Too quickly. "You heal fast," she said, turning away. "That is good." Luke didn't push, didn't speak. But in that small moment of contact, something unspoken passed between them, something Tala had not felt since long before she chose a life alone. "You should rest again," she said. Luke shook his head. "I want to help." Considering him for a long moment, finally, she pointed toward the fire. "Keep the flames alive," she said. "Night will be cold." Luke nodded and did as she asked, feeding the fire with what little strength he had. When he looked up again, Tala was watching him, really watching him. "Why do you look at me like that?" he asked quietly. She hesitated. "Because you are not afraid." "Should I be?" She shook her head. "Most men are." Luke held her gaze, steady and unafraid. "I'm not most men." Something in her expression softened, something tender, vulnerable, and deeply surprised. She looked away, her voice quieter than before. "Sleep now, Luke." As he lay back, he saw Tala move closer to him than she had the night before, sitting nearer the fire, nearer him. She kept watch just as she had before, but this time, there was no distance in her posture, no coldness, no barriers, only a quiet, growing connection neither of them expected. A connection that would shape both their destinies. A connection that would turn one night of refuge into a lifetime neither saw coming. And she, Tala, the Apache woman who had built walls around her heart, never expected that the wounded stranger she saved would one day become her husband. And this was only the beginning.